We have a massive power, and it's the power to say no.
2024 is the year when the pushback begins in earnest.
People ain't seen nothing yet. That's what I keep telling people.
It is a master-servant relationship where we, the governed, are the masters.
Doctors are gaslighting patients.
You press down enough on people for long enough, you leave them no choice but to rebel.
So, no, I don't want to forget about it, and I won't shut up about COVID.
The story of the unvaccinated is still yet to be told.
We are one people, one flag, one Australia.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the XCandidates. My name is Stephen Tripp, joined in person by some lovely gentlemen tonight. Mr. Adam Zara, how are you?
I'm pretty good, Steve. How you going?
Very well, thank you. And Mr. Chriscoveries.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hosting us in this.
Thanks for coming. This is so much better in person.
It is. Yeah, I much prefer in-person.
This is
chats.
a different setup.
It's a very different, and we're running late because of the setup. I apologize to everyone for us running late, but we're flying by the seat of our pants at the moment, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think this is worth the extra 15 minutes. So sorry for the wait, guys back there, but
half of it's my gear, half of it's your gear, it all blended together. It was a melting pot of
none of it's
just
like
a melting pot of awesomeness, maybe.
Multicultural tossed salad.
All right, so if you are watching on Rumble, you can now contribute to the chat. It's a new feature through StreamYard, so thank you everyone that normally watches on Rumble. You now can contribute, so please do in the chat, just like everyone else has been doing as normal on YouTube and YouTube and Facebook. Better let you know quickly about Buy Me a Coffee. I don't have the link, but if you do want to support us, you can head to Buy Me a Coffee and throw us a few dollars there. Also, if you want to get our merchandise, you can head to xcandidates.tshirts.net.au. We got our first sale this week, Adam.
Yeah, I heard. It was really, really awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully whoever bought that t-shirt can send us through a photo of you wearing it out in public, and I don't know what we'll be able to do to put something together, but we'll think of something.
But it should be like, remember they were doing that thing where people were doing kind of crazy stuff and something a bit like, I'm not saying be crazy, but be a bit ballsy with your photo.
Be a bit ballsy.
Ballsy. Don't be
like if Albo's talking somewhere. And just...
Oh yeah, that's what. If you can
go on the XCandidates.
If you can get a picture of you next to a politician, like a Labor politician or something like that.
Yes.
That would be. Go and stand outside your local MP's office. Okay. And obviously let them know that you're not happy with the way things are going, okay? But also just kind of do a thumbs up or that's gold with our shirt on next to the politician. That'd be bloody awesome.
That would be fantastic.
That would be fantastic.
Yes. Also, we're not set up completely tonight, but I normally bring up the NREN photo competition for reckless renewables. Now, there's a photo competition. Just head to nren.com.au and click on the link at the top. It says photo competition. You can go in the draw to win $1,000 if you can take a photo of one of these renewables projects that are causing a lot of damage out in rural communities. So, hey, if you got the photo, even if it's an old photo, send it through, submit it, and you could go in the draw of winning $1,000.
And I just found out a new fact, I'm going to investigate it, but do you know those wind turbines? They require energy to run.
Yeah.
So they're actually plugged in.
Yep.
And
they got to get them started.
For the rotor to actually turn, it's always a constant supply of power.
Yeah, mate.
So it's all right. So wait a second. So they got to use coal-fired power to turn the turbine to produce the wind, right? Wind power. And then as the rotor blade turns, and mind you, at the tip of the blade, it's turning at 300 kilometers an hour. So at the very tip of the blade, it's at 300 kilometers an hour. So good luck to any bird, bug, or insect that's in its path. And slice and dice chop suey, right? And then what I was going to say is that then from the excess power it does, it feeds back into the line. So I'm going to research this a little bit more, so I've got more tips. But I know somebody who's working on those lines at the on those windmills at the moment, and that was laughable.
Yeah, okay. And also, I just want to plug our Instagram page. I don't normally do plug the Instagram page, but if you want to head to our Instagram page, I've got a lot of videos from Rosemary Marshall. She's got some really good content from Forest of the Fallen. So please head to our Instagram page. It's just the XCandidates, and follow us there. And just, even if you don't want to follow us, just check out the story. She's been either talking to victims of vax injuries, or she's actually been confronting pharmacists and saying, why are you still injecting people? Really fascinating stuff. She does some really good stuff. So check that out by going to our Instagram page. But Mr. Chriscoveries, you've been very busy lately, young man.
It's been a full week. It's been a full-on week. When every one of these incidents happen, the next 48 hours, 72 hours just disappear. Everything just melts away.
So I guess to give everyone a little bit of a background of what's happened, obviously we've had 2 massive stabbing attacks in Sydney in the recent week or 2. The last one was Bishop Mar Mari Emmanuel in Wakehurst. Wakely or Wakely at the Good Shepherd Church. And I was at work and someone sent me the footage of him getting stabbed. And I thought, well, I know he live streams because I've watched his content all the way through COVID. He was a real hero of mine. The way he spoke out during COVID. So I'm not religious, but I found myself watching his sermons a lot. And so I knew his YouTube channel. I thought, I'll just jump on YouTube and see if there's footage of it or what happened. And the first thing comes up, Chriscoveries is live on the scene and there's rioting going on. I'm like, uh-oh. So do you want to go into maybe how did you find out about it? And how soon were you there after the actual stabbing?
I've been to this church before. It wasn't just a news story that I was originally planning to go and do.
Yeah.
So I've been to this church a few times before. The bishop's held my child.
Oh, wow.
And it's a nice place to be. It's got a great kids area, and it's nice. So when I was first on my way there, then I heard from a friend that someone had been stabbed, and I was getting ready to go when someone forwarded me the video. And I went, oh, okay, this is a bit of a big deal. I wasn't planning to go live, so I just jumped in the car and was doing my normal thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't until on James East Drive and I saw a column of like 3 police cars. And then on the M4, there's a column of like another 2 or 4 public order and riot vehicles.
Wow.
Doing 150 kilometers an hour. I'm like, yeah, something's going on.
something really going on.
Yeah.
How many people do you think were there?
1,000. Yeah, around 1,000.
Wow.
Some people are going to say there was 5,000. I don't know about that. It's also very hard to tell in the dark in an urban area. But yeah, solid 1,000 I think is a fair number estimate. Some people said 2,000.
Yeah, okay.
So 1,000 people came after it had happened and they've heard about it, or there was 1,000 people at the church?
No, 1,000. Happy to call them rioters. People outside.
Yeah,
many of them rioting. Outside the church. Inside the church, I would say about 100, 150.
Was it do you think the people outside rioting was premeditated and for the attack, or did it happen, or they gathered after the attack, you think?
Look, I was actually at that church this evening. We were at that church this evening, and we were speaking with one of the people who helped make the services happen.
Yeah.
And their view was that they were worried about 10,000 people coming there tonight who wanted to know about this.
Right.
But as you saw there tonight, about 200.
Yeah, but it was a nice full church and lovely place.
Nowhere near the thousands that they were worried about, which lends to the belief and the allegation that people have said that the thousands of people who are outside, haven't said 1,000 plus, were not of the church community. Because if all of those people outside who were throwing chunks of stone, rock, and etc. were part of that church community, they'd be there tonight.
They would have been there tonight, for sure.
But they weren't.
No.
But they weren't. Now, this isn't evidence, blah, 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 but one's credibility.
Yeah, that's what happens,
The last time we spoke to you, you just covered another church incident in which you were assaulted. So if you want to know more about that, go back and watch our previous interview with Chris in the archives. But did you...
Shall I'll bring it up?
Yeah, if you've got it, bring it up. But were you apprehensive going into this one, knowing that the previous church riot that you'd been to, you only minutes? I mean, we've got it here. We'll bring it up now. You'd only been there a handful of minutes before you were shoved to the ground. So, did you expect a similar reaction this time?
I think the difference is the difference I found this time was don't be afraid. Going into things, don't don't be afraid.
So this is the one. So this was Belfield during the New South Wales state election. So this is not the one that we just recently saw. This is your previous experience.
Mark Latham had an event at St. Michael's Church. The Coalition for Rainbow Rights, LGBTQ group, had said that they're going to counter-protest it naively. I thought I'd charge into the middle of it here, ignoring police turning around and not charging into it. So I charged in naively. A lot of naivete going around. And the people there who were there to oppose it responded to me, to the 68 kilo running white guy holding a selfie stick. They viewed fairly or unfairly as someone who'd come there to try and embarrass them, to try and show them up. I also expected getting to the police line inches away from that officer that I'd be safe. The answer was no, I wasn't. And the crowd then surrounded me here. Christian Sukar here at the middle of it, who was later painted by ABC as the center of the violence, was the man who took blows after the camera goes dark when the rioters stripped the phone from me. And they said, yeah, he was injured. I'm happy to say badly, walked away from it, but he was injured from that. So I'd been there before. So this is back to what happened.
So what happened at the at this recent one? I heard 51 police were assaulted and police cars smashed. So there was definitely violence happening. Did you witness any of that violence?
Plenty of it. I was taking. Happy to say I was taking fire. Huge chunks of brick as large as your head, bigger than your fist, flying through the air, having to fall behind hard cover like trees so that you're not being struck by these items. I saw one police officer with blood running down his side of his face, which I later found out was he'd had his jaw injured.
Yeah, he had his jaw. Well, I know one police officer had their jaw broken.
Injured. Yeah, I was looking at this. It was a terrible scene. They wanted the assailant in their hands, and the police's job there was to try and exfiltrate that man.
Yeah,
the suspect. And they can't just hand over the suspect and be like,
no, of course not.
Mob rules.
Yeah,
you know,
tear them apart, boys. You know, there you go.
We trust you to see justice done.
You have to understand that in that circumstances, that the police have to protect the attacker, because if you did take him out into the crowd and give the mob what they want, who knows what could have happened. So if they're willing to attack police, imagine what they would have done to the actual attacker of the bishop.
100%.
So,
but something I'll point out is that assailant was pinned to the ground beneath the legs of the church for the best part of a half hour, and he wasn't injured by them. Contrary to the allegations that his hand was injured, contrary to the allegations that his hand was cut off.
Yeah.
In fact, his hand was both from a police and hospital source that I've spoken to, that I'm happy to go on record and say that his hand was injured by his own knife.
Yes, because there were stories that they'd cut his fingers off, so that wasn't true.
I don't believe that to be true. No.
Yeah.
No one I've spoken to has corroborated that, both either in law enforcement or in hospital that I've spoken to. It's only been people who've heard it from someone else and show this photo of a hand with decapitated fingers, which that's not credibility.
Yeah. What motivates you to go into this situation? Because last time we spoke to you, like, I'm not doing it again. I'm finished.
I'm hanging up the hat.
The alternative is not doing it. The alternative is, as we saw from the coverage of this event, is it doesn't get very well covered.
Well, it's extremely important that it does get documented, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Because ABC, they put up this story the next night, which is, we're one of the first people on the scene. And she's there putting a documentary in documents like, we're so close now, we're less than a kilometer away. And she's like 4 streets away. What? And
you're about, a couple of meters away.
I'm inside the church grounds, right? With public order, right? Struggling for communication. But back to why I do it, because if I don't cover it, idiots do. I'm happy to call most of the people at Channel 9, and that includes Alex Heinke, who went throughout my Instagram saying that I'm a hypocrite, a little boy, because I put up a video of him, which I'll bring up which I can show if we go back to Chriscoveries and go back to that thread. See the Channel 9 just there? Go back to the left.
This one?
I'll go back. Can I
grab
this one? Yep. And it's ham things up by staging the reports time for police minds to move. That one.
Here, I'll bring it up on this screen.
So Alex was very unhappy about this. He felt that I was lying by putting this coverage up. this Chris coverage. But he was timing his go lives. He was timing his cuts when the police line would move. The police lines would move every so often. They'd regroup their lines. And
so this guy in the white shirt, he's the Channel 9 reporter.
He is.
You can see him just kind of hanging out, getting ready.
He's waiting. He's waiting. He's like, camera on me. Here we
All
go.
relaxed.
Camera on me. Camera
All
on me.
relaxed.
And then move. Oh, look, now you can see what's happening here. And you can see, this is actually something that ended up in the report. It's cringe. It's totally cringe. It's one thing, right, to catch a story as it's happening. It's another thing to time it, right?
So filming it for drama.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look, I know if it bleeds, it leads. Sure, I get it. And you've got to do that because that's what you're responsible. But this is the thing. There's something about, we go back to, you remember the movie Night Stalker, right? Or journalistic, you're there to try and catch what's happening, not time it as it's there. That's the difference, which I found cringe. And 100,000 people viewed it on Instagram, agreed with it, and he had a complete meltdown about how. But why do I keep doing it? Because otherwise Alexander covers it.
Alexander
Heinke from Channel 9.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm with you. I want to talk about the reaction because it was very close to what happened in Bondi. 2 stabbing events, with a stark contrast between them. Obviously, the Bondi event, it was blamed on mental illness. There were 6 victims dead, like that died, and the police were, especially the lady that shot the attacker, was put up as a hero, and rightfully so. And then the contrast is to this event that you were at. Suddenly, it's a terrorist act. There was no one that was killed. There were people that were injured, and Mar Mari Emmanuel, the bishop, was labelled as a anti-vaxxer and all this sort of stuff.
And a hateful incitement or something like that.
Yeah,
an inciter or something like that. So
yeah. So and obviously the stark contrast of the reaction of the community as well. Bondi, people were putting flowers outside. There was no real pushback or violence or rioting or anything like that. And you can probably attribute that to the attacker was shot on the site. So what else can you do? But there was a riot afterwards that you've covered. There was a completely different response. Do you have any comments maybe on?
Bondi was not an act upon a religious leader. Bishop Mar Mari, for so many people of southwestern Sydney, is something completely different. This was not just a random, unplanned stabbing. This was a stabbing in a church. That's a special place.
But I don't think Bondi was unplanned either. Do you think that was just a spontaneous attack? We don't know for sure, but
I got to speak to the things I know for sure,
yeah.
and I can speak of. It's been broadly reported, and many people agree that Bondi was a random act of violence without a larger motive within it. We can get into the kind of insult thing, but what I will speak to is the specifics around that. This was a church, not a shopping center, not a street, and a church is a special place, and not just any church. This is a church willing to host a special person, a special person who is willing to speak, as so many in the Western Sydney community see, is their truth, a very rare truth that so few in any kind of faith leaders are willing to speak anymore, be it from vaccine mandates to childhood gender transitions and so many other topics like it. This would have, if this attack succeeded, removed one of those truths from them. Then you combine with that the legacy which the Lebanese community carries with it, having fled a war with Islam. They fled for peace here, and it has followed them. All of these things combined to not just like a doubling up of anger, not just a quadrupling, but each one of them stacked to a 100-fold, 1,000-fold multiplication that, well, you saw what happened there. Why was it an act of terrorism? Religion, it comes into it. This was a specific target for a specific reason. And this is a conflict between 2 religions. And then we come to, how did this happen? Was there someone that Joel Cauchi was referring to, or is there anyone in the Australian community saying, we need to go into, our people die for female jihad, right? No, there are groups here in Australia, in Sydney, who say that our people crave jihad. Our people, jihad is the only solution to people who reject our word, who reject our belief. That's what this all kind of leads to when you get to that act of terrorism. This is not just as important and terrible as these deaths were that happened in Bondi Junction. There wasn't a faith leader who died that way, apart from perhaps if you could call John Singleton's daughter relevant.
Well, I still think it's incredibly emotive because a child was stabbed, and anyone that has children, that it elicits a response straight away that's just almost biological.
It's a violent biological response.
Yes.
Ready to kill the guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but I want to bring up. So this is the Islamic Council of New South Wales. This is their reaction to the event that you've actually posted on your X account, Chris, and they obviously they condemn what happened, and a lot of other faith.
Where do they condemn it?
Well, I know. I'll bring up in a second all the groups that did.
No, this is important. Where does this statement condemn it? Condemn the attack and the attacker.
Well, they offer condolences. That's not condemning.
Condolences for.
So they offer condolences and calls for caution after recent attacks in Bondi Junction and Wakeley. The Islamic Council.
Too, they didn't specifically speak about Wakeley.
Yeah, so they're deeply shocked and saddened by the events that have occurred on Sunday in Bondi and last night at the Good Shepherd Church. They pass on their condolences and prayers to all those affected, and they are thankful to God that nobody has died as a result of last night's attacks by the 16-year-old individual, and then they bring up that he had behavioral and mental health issues. And they go on to say, religious places of worship of any faith are sacred sanctuaries of peace. So yeah, you're right. They haven't condemned it, but they do make this point. We find it bewildering that the weekend's devastating incident at Bondi Junction, where 6 victims were tragically killed in a targeted attack, has been attributed by authorities to be excessively motivated by the mental health issues of the perpetrator. Yet, in stunning contrast, the incident at Christ the Good Shepherd Church, where thankfully nobody was killed, was designated as a terrorist attack within hours of the incident, despite the fact that the perpetrator is known to have a history of behavioral and mental health issues. The signal this sends to the Australian community is that terrorism is solely reserved for Muslims, irrespective of the age, mental state, and self-driven actions of an individual. Mental health issues like terrorism are not exclusive to any community. Do you think they have a point with that at all? No. It was a 16-year-old kid. It was one person, a 16-year-old kid. I mean, he could have had mental health issues. Yes, it was religiously motivated.
The modern state of politics is when the ball's in your court, you play the other side. You defer, demur, you create context. We aren't looking at the full context. When it's in their court, this is a clear instance of their side being bad. All men need to take responsibility for Bondi Junction. All men are responsible for male violence. When it's on your side of the court, we're going to look at the full picture. We're going to understand it. We're going to talk about all these other issues. Whataboutism. When it's on their side of the court, this guy's to blame. This is a systematic problem. They need to be held to account. All white people need to feel guilty for X, Y, Z. This is just the state of play.
That's a pretty good point as well.
So this is what I was referring to before. This is all the faith leaders around New South Wales. They've all come out and condemned the attacks or come out with
Hold on. National Imams Council, is this condemnation?
Condemned, yes, unequivocally condemned tonight's attack.
Okay.
Yes,
These attacks are horrifying. No place in Australia.
Yeah, so that's the Australian National Islam Imams Council. Yep. We've got the Muslim community.
Condemns. Yep.
This is a whole bunch of different Islamic communities. Condemns the horrendous crime. So I mean, there's a whole bunch of them here, which is what they should be doing. They should be condemning the attack. It was a horrific attack. I mean, any church environment any environment, but specifically a church shouldn't see any sort of violence. But
Jewish Board of Deputies gets it right, calling out and pointing out this was an attack on the Assyrian community as well.
Which one?
There? Because most people have missed this as an Assyrian church. Not everyone gets that. It's just, and that's fine. It's not expected that everyone knows every specific detail, but something of this scale, I would hope that many of these groups are paying some attention, understanding who goes to this church, who he was, who felt hurt by it. Some of them did their work and research into it, others didn't. And I just think that matters a little bit. Not that I'm a Syrian myself, but I think it matters to take that time to look into this when you're putting such a statement together. And it's really obvious when there is no mention of condemnation, which is why I wanted to point that out.
Just a quick question, guys. Obviously, Bishop Mar Mari's a fairly prominent figure, okay? And he had an attempted assassination, okay? Did the Prime Minister of Australia happen to speak out? Did anyone see this Prime Minister just put a message out saying, sorry for Southwest Sydney and, for the attack on, we condemn this kind of behaviour between religious groups? Did we hear anything from Mr. Albanese? I haven't.
Called for calm. The attacks in Wakeley. I don't know if he said apologise for Western Sydney specifically, but
he called for calm.
Yeah.
Over the attacks.
So he didn't condemn it, you're saying?
Well, did he make any sort of point on it? Like, we're talking about Christianity here. It's one of those things that are, taboo in this day and age. For everyone other than Christians, obviously. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, it's like the white man. Like, it's like why he doesn't wear an Australian pin, but he'll wear a turban for Indian ceremonies. I don't even know what they were. Where's the Australian pin? Was he going to have a poppy on his lapel for Anzac Day?
That's a good question. We'll have to wait and see.
I know, but you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, I think I've got to be honest with you. He really doesn't stand for so much for the Australian people. He's not really out there for, the basis of Australia. Christianity is the basis of Australia and its politics and its laws.
Look, I listened to what he had to say and I don't recall that, but pretty quickly this moved on to misinfo.
Okay.
Never let prices go to waste. So
yeah, everything moves on to that. I haven't heard Peter Dutton come out today. I don't know if it was today, but I saw the footage today. He's even saying we'll back the legislation. We want to see it first, but
I just looked at the first time I looked at my phone all weekend, and I just saw that clip of Peter.
I know. Millie Fontana had her on her Instagram page.
Previous guest of the XCandidates.
Yep. And this is the you've just brought this up quickly, Chris.
Yeah, this is the clip I just recently saw.
Is this the one? Well, we won't be hearing much of Dutton. Misinformo.
If I can bring it up.
I don't think this is the one.
I can bring it up.
Yeah. But what I do want to talk about, we're talking about contrasts.
Oh, do you want to grab it? You can grab it. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. We'll play it now.
And I think there's a bipartisan position in relation to this. We know that the companies, and we've seen some of the comments from Elon Musk overnight, they see themselves above the law, and the Australian law here should apply equally in the real world as it does online. As Phil was pointing out before, you would be sued for defamation and you would be taken before the courts under various acts for publishing some of that which freely flows on the internet. And there's an age verification regime which has been recommended by the E-Safety Commissioner from 2023. We think that's something the government should pick up straight away as well. But the Online Safety Act has significant powers in it.
Wait. Look, all of these guys are getting this information from their media advisors. They're not looking at what's happening before. Musk took down what he needed to fairly quickly. Twitter did that, and then launched a legal challenge against that because what the E-Safety Commissioner wanted was it taken down globally. Even the videos which we've seen tonight, and we saw some of in some of my clips that are due to include some of the stabbing. They want video of this stabbing to be taken down. But Channel 7, which named an innocent man, has anything been done to Channel 7? Oh, it's got to go through the defamation court. Oh, we've got to look at that. It's got to be a private thing like that. Holy moly. A stabbing that actually happened, that seriously affected it. I am really looking forward to seeing if Bishop Mar Mari comes out to say, I want to see that video up. I do not want that video taken down. Because Bishop Mar Mari forgave his attacker.
He did.
Yeah, let's bring it up. I mean, this is another contrast that I wanted to bring up was the reaction of the priest. There was no hatred or anything. So this is what he said. Twitter is so bad at
We can-
playing videos.
If you like, we can talk over the top of it because it's got subtitles. But the main point I want to make is, would a man who was seen to be killed about to be killed by someone else and forgave that man want the video of what happened to him deleted from existence from the internet?
I don't think he would want it deleted, because it just goes to show why it proves the faith that he is willing to forgive somebody who causes harm. And if you delete that evidence of it happening, you're kind of taking away his power over the situation. Again, it's against Christianity.
Then who is this deletion for? Who does it help? Who
Well,
does it
helps
serve?
Islamics.
All of it. No, the government as well.
Oh, the government. Yeah.
But
concerned.
Who does it?
And a piece of advice to our beloved faithfuls. I need you to act Christ-like. The Lord Jesus never taught us to fight. The Lord Jesus never taught us to retaliate. The Lord Jesus never said to us an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. The Lord Jesus said, never return evil with evil, but return evil with good.
Oh, sorry, Stephen. Now, I saw some clips. Obviously, I haven't sent any through, but the headline for Bishop Mar Mari was, anti-vaxxer, almost hate speaker. I can't remember the hate speech or incentive. I can't remember the wording exactly, right? Has been stabbed. Like they painted the victim
straight away
to be horrible.
This is the measure of the man, right? So he goes on to say he's just been stabbed. He's just been in hospital. He's recovering, and he comes out and makes this public statement that he's going to forgive the attacker. Ah, bloody!
I forgive whoever has done this act.
Give me a second. I'll bring it up again. We need to what we really need to talk to Elon Musk about is about fixing his videos on his platform. But
well, if Elon Musk is listening,
if Elon Musk is listening, please
But
please
he forgives his attacker.
Yeah, he forgives his attacker. Here we go.
Lord Jesus, it's a huge blessing for me. I forgive whoever has done this act, and I say to him, you're my son. I love you, and I will always pray for you. And whoever sent you to do this, I forgive them as well. In Jesus' mighty name. I have nothing in my heart but love for everyone.
Isn't that crazy? He has love for his attacker. Could we? I mean, I don't know if I'd react like that if someone had stabbed me. And thank God, whatever switchblade or flick knife or whatever it was apparently didn't retract or open correctly. The first blow was straight to the face.
So does anyone know the actual extent of the injuries of Bishop Mar Mari? Like what he's got?
Minor. Either the scabbard was still on the knife, or the sheath was still on the knife, or it didn't unfold.
So I've heard differently from a different source. And I heard that he might actually lose his eye, and that when the knife didn't work, he actually was bitten by the assailant.
Oh, wow.
So he has love for somebody who was clear cut on killing this man.
Well, look, let's hope that account is not true.
Well, let's hope it's not true. I mean, this is obviously a speculative. I have heard it through some source. Okay. It's a news source, and it's for 2 days later to come out or and have a message like that after sustaining possibly very, very serious injuries, i.e. losing an eye.
A sheathed knife to the eye still could absolutely blind you. You could lose an eye.
Absolutely. He might not physically lose it, but he could be blind. Yeah. That could be considered a lost eye.
Absolutely.
And I mean, we'll find out. But he sounds in good health from his message.
I was actually listening to that thinking that he sounds a bit...
Oh, did you?
Yeah. A little bit, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's like he's still breathing properly. It feels like it's still
not near death.
Yeah.
But compared to his normal energetic self, he sounds.
Although I have seen him interviewed where he's a lot different than when he's actually giving a. Yes, he is a little bit more reserved.
That's true.
Behind the scenes, but
and sitting in a hospital, 3 days of hospital food.
Yeah, eating hospital food.
Anesthesia, anesthetics.
Yeah,
all the pain meds that have been pumping through him. Also coming to deal with possible injuries.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, his faith would be, I mean, he's a strong believer up, you know what I mean, like faithful man, but your faith would be tested. Like, I take this as a blessing, you know, so that's faith in your God, to say that even though I've almost been killed, I take this as a blessing, you know.
Now, I want to talk about another contrast before we move on to other things, was the reaction to the police. Obviously, as I said before, in Bondi, the police were heroes, whereas in this incident, they were the object of some violence against them. How do you judge the police response? I know in your footage on your YouTube account, when I was watching this live when you were there, and you were in a car park, and the police shuffled everyone out of the car park, and you're like, where do I go? You didn't obviously you didn't want to go into the crowd. You didn't really know what could happen there. So you were saying to the police, where do I go? Where do I go? And the police were just like, move. And you actually said during the footage they could have handled that a lot better. Reflecting on it now, have you changed your view?
No, only hardened. What occurred within that car park? What happened as they cleared that car park was unreasonable. Police have got a tough job. Every riot is a tough job. All right, this isn't like it's easy. There's always and the thing is, there's always going to be mistakes made in a riot, in any kind of large crowd situation. There's always any use of force. You could always do better. If you get to the use of force, you could have done better. But in this situation, you had to use, but then you had to measure it. Now, the situation there was that outside the church, you had large, angry men throwing chunks of stone at the church because they wanted mob justice.
Yeah.
How did aggressively, violently, and incredibly rapidly clearing the church car park, where women, a couple of children, and elderly were taking refuge, prevent that? How does that help that? The threat is coming from outside, and one of the officers turns around and goes, right, we're going to clear what's inside. He hadn't finished clearing the streets outside. We're still being pelted with stuff, and he decides we're going to clear the inside. How did that didn't make sense. What had happened, he'd seen one of his other brethren probably get injured.
Yeah.
And he's like, right, that's it. We're going to do that.
Well, they're only human, right? So, they've got emotions too. And
no, they're police officers. That's what you have.
Well, they're meant to, they have their training and all, but
no, you have special powers, which comes with special responsibilities. You have special powers to assault, injure, do as you please in the pursuit of order. With that comes special responsibilities for how and when you exercise that. I don't believe that was well exercised in that situation. That said, on the scheme of things, that was pretty small, and that was fairly small compared to, as I heard earlier tonight, the pepper spraying of the men carrying the cross in the street. That just enraged the situation even more. I'm not sure if you've seen I'm not sure if we can skip to when the cross goes up in the middle of the street, and that very much calmed things down when they carried a cross to the street, and it just very much helped change the tone of the situation when sorry, I can't quite find it, but they were carrying a cross through the street that just changed the tone. And they ended up getting pepper sprayed. You can see the cross just there. I'm not sure if you can quite see that. We're not sure. Can you share the screen?
Yeah. Give me 1 sec.
And this was a great aid to try and calm things down, because they carried a cross out there. Sorry, it's portrait, but while carrying a cross out there, this was a reminder to the Christians in the crowd: what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? How is this serving your faith? How is this serving and this is where I walk back away. If you even back up another 15 seconds before this, it was starting to calm the crowd down. What happened was the people carrying that cross got pepper sprayed.
Oh, you're kidding.
Go back. Just go back 15 seconds from it, and you'll see just the absurdity of pepper spraying the guys carrying the cross, which was starting to calm the situation down.
So was it this bit that we just saw?
What it was probably seen by police. Yeah, just before this. Can I grab this?
Yeah, you go for it.
So you see this cross here?
Yeah.
That really helped change things. They went inside and they got the cross and they came out with it, and they were like, hey, this isn't it. And the people carrying that ended up getting pepper sprayed. And that's what kicked it off into particularly high gear.
Yeah, okay.
Don't you think that public perception of the police and the way they acted is just by the perspective of the mob? So like when you were talking about Bondi, okay, there was one assailant, okay, and everyone in the end wanted him dead, right? So then the police officer shot him dead, and and everyone's happy. Police acted perfectly. Okay, could have been a bit quicker, whatever. Okay, but what happens here is that there's a single assailant who's obviously the attacker. Okay, but then the mobs now come out and want blood, so now the mob become the assailant. Okay, so then the police have to actually act towards them.
Yep.
You know, so people are going, oh, you know, like, so that the mob perspective was the cops have been abusive to us and handled it wrong, but maybe in accordance to law, the police did the right thing. I'm not justifying anyway. I'm just talking about the perspectives of, you know, your perspective of, because if all right, so then, sorry, 1 second. If the cops let the assailant out and let mob rip him to pieces, which they would have, and then the mob would say he done the right, the cops have done the right thing and it's just, but then the police have broken the law.
Yes. Favorite saying of mine: unless you have order, there is no law. Law is pieces of paper in the state library. It's absolutely irrelevant in that situation or in any riot. It just doesn't matter to act lawfully. First, you must restore order in those streets.
Yep.
And that's what the police did.
Yep.
Everything else is superfluous. Can you exfiltrate that suspect so that you can see that he suffers the consequences
of his
actions through law?
Yeah.
Well, first we have to restore order.
Yes, that's right.
You know, you said this last time we interviewed you. Yeah. And it's been ringing in my head ever since, because I think it's an excellent point. You were saying the police, yeah, they stand for law and order, but they have to enforce order first. So we don't have a clip of it, but there was a recent riot, or sorry, not a riot, a protest. I think it was in the town hall of Sydney where they were protesting about Palestine. Palestinian supporters were protesting, and there was one man that turned up with an Israeli flag, and he stood there and he waved the Israeli flag, and he wasn't doing anything. He was just waving the flag. He's being peaceful. Police came along and escorted him out, and he was like, "Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything wrong." And your words rang in my ear. They need to restore order. They see this man, he can incite the crowd, and something really bad could happen. So get him out of there.
Yep. 100%. That was Sergeant Mayer, who was the man carrying that guy out. Sergeant Mayer is one of the higher ups when it was senior sergeant. I think he got promoted. No, promoted a while ago. That this is what he does on a bread and butter kind of situation, is deal with the protests like it. He had 1,000, 2,000 angry young men who an incident, a catastrophic incident had happened between Gaza, all that kind of thing happened just days beforehand. He had maybe 80 boots on the ground. There was no way that even if he called in every single pair of boots that he had in close order and put an APB over radio, that he could have protected the man carrying the flag, Mark Leach, from what he did. So is Mark then inciting a crowd to that knowing by holding an Israeli flag in front of it, and for what the crowd sees as inciting genocide? What do you do? What do you do?
So you have to enforce order first before the law.
What's the alternative? Stand there and try and read everyone their rights, that everyone has a right to free speech, while the Palestinians are begging for blood for what they view as a genocide that's happening?
We have a question. I don't know if we'll be able to answer this, because I'm not quite sure who this person is. What do you think of Hugo? What do you think of what Hugo Talks said? Do you guys know who Hugo Talks is?
I haven't heard of Hugo Talks.
No, nothing. Okay. Sorry, we can't answer that one, John. But what I want to bring up next now, so you were really in the thick of things this week. Not only did you cover the actual event and everything that happened there, but there was also some stuff that happened afterwards in regards to coverage. Now, this is Avi from Rebel News, and we can see that he's showing your footage here. This is your footage. Now, this is the man on the right-hand side here. This man was actually holding the attacker down at the church, or at least sitting over the top of him.
Stab him, and I'll throw him. I ran and grabbed him. Stab him, and I'll throw him. I ran and grabbed him from behind and just pushed him down.
But as we can see,
oh, that's all his blood.
So this is you interviewing him. Wow. You can see the blood still on his hands from the shot before inside the church. This is outside the church afterwards. But Rebel News and Avi have put their logo at the top there, and what's really bizarre, I can understand the logo to a point, but what's really bizarre is your watermark here, the Chriscoveries watermark. They've blurred that out. What's all that about? This is your footage.
Money. He got 1.8 million impressions off that. It's close to $2,000.
Wow.
It linked to his story on the article, which was calling for people to fund his studio.
No, but I don't understand, because let's say he'd done exactly the same post, removed the watermark and put a credit to Chriscoveries. Is he obligated to pay you then?
Well, now that comes down to personality rather than business. One thing's for business. You can kind of understand business, don't want to have to pay sources, don't want to have to credit it. But why do that? Well, now we come down to personality. I've met Avi before. I've covered him at different events. I've been in a live stream with him. He's asked me to delete live streams that he's been in. It's just Avi. It's just how he works. I can get into a detailed character assassination if you'd like, but I'd say the evidence testifies for what type of character he is. What I'd lead into is it's symptomatic of news organizations and what their agendas are. I think we've both seen what's happened with Candace Owen in the Daily Wire, where their credibility and their underlying agendas for what they're trying to report on and what they support and what they're willing to platform in terms of speech has been called into question by all manner of people.
Yep.
I think people are doing the same thing with Avi Emmanuel and Rebel News, and they're seeing a rhyming between the Daily Wire and Rebel News and why they do what they do, what they want to platform, what their purposes, motivations are. And I think they're right. I think they're right that you should be asking what people's agendas are and what their biases are. I have biases.
Yep.
I'm open and honest with them, with who I am, why I do this, but it's important that my reporting of what I present to you is honest.
Yes.
We have biases. Those who say they are completely unbiased, you should be questioning. And that's why we lead to this.
That's, I mean, I thought you had to, if you were going to do an opinion piece, you have to label it as an opinion piece. Or if you're biased, don't you have to address that in reporting?
Maybe in 1988, not anymore.
That's where I'm from, man. That's the era.
That's where we grew up.
That's where I grew up. When I ever learned about, when I know Stephen and I have had conversations about, writing articles and things like that. And we had a set structure that we were taught, that you put, all your facts, Stephen, you've said it too. You put your facts and everything in there, a few quotes, and then you might put a little bit of an opinion piece at the end of it or something like that, right? But the bulk of the story is at the top, and it's all factual.
Times have changed,
mate.
Times have changed.
Why? I mean, so how does anyone trust anything they read or see anyway? It can just be hoo-ha.
Are they someone like you? Was this article written by someone like you from a similar background and a similar future, with a similar hope, similar dream, similar faith, similar views, similar language, similar
somebody
religion?
that doesn't care about like the money as much as maybe somebody else? Like, I don't really care about money that much. You know what I mean? Like,
but everyone says they don't care about the money.
Well, you don't. You're clicking it if you're doing. Well,
person who says
but actions are louder than words, right?
Oh, absolutely right.
And this is where I'm trying to get to, is like, we do all this for nothing pretty much. I mean, we do ask for a little bit of
hey, people have done it to us. I know one of our posts, I put a clip up of Ian Plimer, and someone on Twitter took that clip, posted it on their site, and got 100,000 views from it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, if it gets the message out there, it gets the message out there. But they're using someone else's content. All I would have liked, they didn't message me behind the scenes, say, hey, look, I'm going to use your content. Great stuff. Keep it up. All I wanted was an acknowledgement at XCandidates, something like that. That's why when we do these things, I've got XCandidates stuff everywhere, the logos and all that stuff. Because someone wants to use our stuff.
Makes it hard.
It makes it hard. You've got your watermark. Some news outlets, and we talked about Avi, but there were others as well. You might want to mention them if you choose.
No news.
That cropped out your watermark.
Even though it was right in the middle. So they only got like the first half of the frame, and then they got my face like this. Even worse with the 9 News report that they did the night afterwards, they've actually got my voice over someone else's footage. I really hate that, because that feels like it's doctoring.
Well, that's out of context.
That's really out of context. But they did that to try and get me back for exposing Alex Heinke Tangies. That's why he went into the office, and Alex went into the editors and were like, oh yeah, can we see if we can stitch this up a little bit? This is the game. This is you think people in the edit suite don't have agendas and loyalties and don't hold grudges? That's where the grudges really come out in those edit suites, man. That's what really comes out.
It's just petty stuff, isn't it?
No, it's only they are licensed to show us reality. Everyone else, we're treading on their turf.
Well, that's why I guess why you're so dangerous to them, because you're on the scene live streaming. So it's not edited. It can't be edited. It's the raw bones of what's happening, what's really happening, and they can't spin it. They try and spin it afterwards, of course, because I suppose especially the boomers, that's all they watch. They wouldn't even know that you can go on YouTube and watch someone live streaming from a real event. But
it's changing though.
That's what you're doing is so important, because they're covering a live event. There's not much bias that you can insert into it. So obviously you can have some commentary and you maybe have a shot here or there, but if you're just showing exactly what's happening, that's exactly what's happening.
Yep. Oh, there's plenty that you can still do to skew it, but the capacity of it is so small. Like in the edit suite, you can just cut things together and completely rearrange things. Some of the biggest powers.
Well, as you said, take footage from one and put the audio from the other and just slice them together.
Rearrange it. But on live, yeah, it's really hard to kind of skew it. It's really just where you point the camera and some leading questions. It's much more difficult.
So it's kind of like turning live footage into reality TV.
Yeah.
Say maths or something like that. Like, it's just cut and sliced to pieces, and then put together to suit an agenda, to get people to watch, to get clickbait.
Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that obviously we've shown clear evidence that this stuff goes on. You've really got to wonder what else is there out there that we've witnessed throughout the last few years, or maybe even decades, where the narrative is a certain way, and we've believed that narrative because we haven't seen anything else, but it could be a completely different story.
Oh, look, 9/11. I'm just saying, you can question.
You got to be,
everything.
That's why you've always got to question everything.
Everything, because
nobody has time for that.
No, but the thing
nobody's got time to question.
Nobody.
Well, in a way, you're right though.
But what happens is you have to know the narrative now. So the narrative is, global.
So this is this the clip? Is it?
Yeah, this is the clip. So this is me. See how far they've cropped in? They've cropped in all without the watermark. But then what they do, they subtitle my words over someone else's footage. I'm still speaking over the top of this. This isn't my footage. And yeah, this is them getting me back. This is them taking me, right, cropping in, getting the watermark out of the way, giving me subtitles.
Not only cropping in and taking out the watermark, they're making you look like a nut job. Like, I mean, if you have a camera up to someone's face like that, anyone looks like a crazy person.
Correct. Yep. That's part of framing. The color grade is pretty good on this one as well. They've changed the color grade as well.
Really?
Well, it's just business. It's just business. You cool the color temperature down a little bit, which helps, and the exposure, and yeah, there you go. Notice that none of this is particularly warm footage. It's all, where's all the color?
Yeah, because it's like a drug overdose advertiser or something like that, right? Like, the smoking advertisers, it's that gray, because there's no life in anyone's face.
See the blue police lights that should be startlingly blue and red?
Yeah.
It's all washed out.
See, my biggest concern with this is that the media is meant to be a true representation of what happened, which, as I said, is what you're doing.
In 1988. That's what he just said to me.
Why isn't government?
Because it's
I often think, like, if I ever got in Parliament, I'd want to push through a law that said, if you're going to be reporting media, I don't want to see any more opinion pieces. I don't want to see any more editing like this. All I want to see is what was the guy that we grew up with? Was it Brian Henderson?
Brian Henderson. Like,
I don't know if he was completely truthful, but he at least appeared that way. And
we were kids too.
We want to know exactly what's going on, not this stuff that's spun completely.
Back it up with evidence. Have the evidence.
Like, look at that shot there.
It looks
like they've got a grey filter over that.
It is.
They do have a grey filter over it
because it's like a domestic violence ad. It's the content. Actually,
startling blue and red.
People out there, when you're watching TV, if you watch TV, have a look and just take notice of like the domestic violence ads, the drug ads. They just wash it out grey.
Notice the blue. She's shifting to purple there as well. It's just business. This is just how it is. if I can also put forward, think about the audience who's watching 9 News. The people who were there that night aren't watching 9 News. It's not Western Sydney who's watching this. Everyone who was there that night, there was a reason why these mainstream guys were getting hassled, jostled, literally grabbed. People get having their cameras smashed. And I was okay. It wasn't just because I was part of the community. Remember, this is a white guy. This is a skinny white guy. All right. And we saw what happened last time at Belfield.
Yep.
The difference is the narrative since Belfield is very much changed. They know the word is out that these guys are liars. They know that this is not true.
This very much reminds me of footage you see in documentaries that is heavily edited, obviously, because it's a documentary. But is that what we're watching every night on the news?
Yes. I know this because I'm in many ways doing exactly the same thing. You have to frame it for maximum impact, maximum clips. When you saw the clips that I took out of my 1.5 live stream over it,
yeah,
it's only about 2 minutes, 3 minutes of it of 3 hours, but it seems like it's a 3-hour massively dramatic thing. That's just business of cut through in social media that you have to pick out the most exciting, most interesting, most thrilling moments and get them up, because that's what gets you 2 million, 3 million views and a little bit of those $20 so that you can keep going, because it's just about money, because you can't do anything with it unless it's about money.
It's the state of the world at the moment.
Their audience in Eastern Sydney wants to see this. This will get them paying attention. There was a reason that they went back, if I can, the next morning. Can I keep going?
Yeah, get it. We'll bring it back up. Yeah.
Right. There's a reason why the next morning when I went back, not just staging it, but
this one here, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll bring this one up. So explain what they're doing here.
They went back the next day, and you want to talk about staged? You want to talk about documentary? Oh yeah, mate. Can you just light that up for us? Can you do that? This was gruesome crap.
But this is stuff that a current affair used to do throughout the years, and we kind of accepted that the current affair was a little bit separate than the nightly news. But this is nightly news now.
Well, they get Gold Walkley Award winners. Remember the horse punch?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was widely debunked. 9 months after that won a Gold Walkley Award for its photo.
Really?
After you saw the video, that it was just kind of a push away.
Then I just saw a recent clip that the guy who was prosecuted for that, now all the charges have been dropped.
Yeah, but he won a Gold Walkley Award. It's true.
Yeah. Well.
Lisa Wilkinson having Brittany Higgins and David Shiraz and all of these people over scheming about how they're going to frame this in the media.
Yeah.
And how it's going to impact the Labor Party and the Liberal Party as well. Lisa Wilkinson in that planning meeting.
We should have called the show Question Everything.
But there's no time for that. That's entirely the thing. We have this view that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. People can't. People can't walk and chew gum because there's too much going on. We've been only the most dedicated political junkies can sit here as we have for even an hour to discuss this, because that's what it takes to disassemble the color grade, the framing, the who's involved, the what happened, the where, what, who, how. You've only got 60 to 90 seconds on TikTok to try and deliver it and get on with it. And that is just how it is.
It's very scary. We don't want to harp on too much about this. We all know this is happening, assuming this is happening, but when we actually see it in this stark reality, and you're on the firing line, like you actually there, you know exactly what happened, and then you watch the footage afterwards. How do you react to it? Like, do you just roll your eyes? Do you get angry? Do you get frustrated? Do you get all those emotions all at once? Like, what goes through your mind when that happens?
You know, even through most of this, not a lot has really surprised me now. I've just been doing it for so long. I knew Channel 9 to kind of do this with the color. I was a bit, when they did the subtitle over the top, I was a bit surprised, but I was like, yeah, it's just business for them. They're just getting me back. If you're finding this out for the first time, as you are, or the viewers at home are, yeah, this is how the sausage gets made. Nobody likes to see how the media sausage gets made, but this is what they do. This is how they do it. This is how it gets carved up, and we all consume it. Like if you ever go to a butchery and you see how they actually carve up carcasses and grind it into ground meat, you're like, ugh. But you go to McDonald's and pick up a burger, like, yum yum. It's gruesome. It's awful. But we all buy it in billions of dollars worth. So
this probably dovetails into something that's very, very similar. And that was the January 6th, January 7th. Well, I forgot now. January 6th.
January 6th.
J6. And I was watching the live stream live when all that happened. And obviously after that, the media spun it, twisted it around. So did the politicians. They've weaponized it. So it's a very, very similar situation. You actually went to America recently and got some footage of there. Do you want to explain exactly what the footage was that you got, and maybe your observations of what happened or what was going on there in the United States?
Yeah, sure. I got to interview Mickey Babbitt, who is the mother of Ashley Babbitt. That was the woman who was killed on January 6th. Unarmed woman, as it seems to be, so that we've got to keep highlighting that the J6s weren't armed. What I want to highlight is even more important that I didn't get footage of, which was that coming away from the Capitol that day, I saw a couple of center-left Democrat lobbyists who had come to the Capitol in order to lobby for a insurance reform for reasonable, good center-left Democrats from Missouri and California, but they were walking away saying something very important. What kind of insurrection and nobody brings a gun? And they were absolutely right. When center-left Democrats recognize this, the word is out on January 6th. The most armed nation on earth. Everyone's got a gun and nobody brought it. They didn't start shooting the officers. This was a nation born through insurrection, through armed insurrection. Boston Massacre, Tea Party. This is the nation when you had muskets, which are very difficult to load.
Muzzle load.
Very, very hard, very hard. More than willing to start shooting law enforcement back then. And they didn't bring guns this time with automatic weapons. Easy to load, fire, didn't. Pistols?
Look, I've spoken to a few people just touch on this topic. I don't really get too involved in American politics, bar, the obvious stuff. I think a lot of people are still have a twisted view on it, still believe the media, still believe the way it's been portrayed.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Even Americans, and I get American customers too in my line of work. There's, people marry in and marry out of relationships and whatnot. So, yeah.
So what is actually happening here?
For 580 days, these people have been showing up outside the DC Correctional Center, not just to honor these people, but also for I think it's $4.80 a minute, call the prisoners inside and put them on there. It's absolutely amazing what they're doing. And if I can say, if Antifa, if unarmed, non-property damage, if unarmed Antifa protesters had been captured in the same way that J6s were, I'd actually feel I'd feel similarly with similar reverence, because unarmed protesters who, like in terms of total property January and January 6th, I mean, it's not a lot. It's a broken windows, right? Compared to what happened through BLM, right, which was not just through property damage, but the number of people hurt, injured, killed. I would hold similar reverence, but they show up there, and it's multicultural. There's a Chinese lady right there, and I got to speak to her about what I want to kind of say. Aren't you all white supremacist nationalists? What's the Chinese lady? What are you doing? She's from Hong Kong. She's a lady who doesn't want to see another cultural revolution happening here. There was a black lady there from the Caribbean. I couldn't. It didn't fit narratives of why they were there. And can I also say about the lady that you had there earlier, what was tragic about her was that her husband was done. Yep, click to there. This lady told me a story, and I clicked it as well. Her husband brought a holster to January 6th, and that's what he got done on.
Wow. A holster.
Just a holster.
Not the gun. Didn't bring the gun.
No, just a holster.
Even worse, they lost the holster in evidence.
So her husband is in prison right now. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it gets even worse about how the husband ended up in prison. So how they identified the husband? Her 18-year-old son was the informant.
Oh,
wow.
What?
Imagine your 18-year-old son phoning up the FBI and saying,
was it his son? Was it his?
Yeah.
Oh.
Their son. And
This
saying,
is stories that you hear about from communist Russia.
I was just about to say, this is communism where children turn on their parents. State rule. Love of state.
And imagine going away for 7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
That's 7 years just because he had a holster.
The case is a little bit more complex than that, but the holster was the key part of creating. Is a very important part of creating. You had an intent to insurrect. Why would you bring a holster if you didn't have a gun? Where's the gun? You may have thrown the gun, and that's where you can create this nice narrative from it.
Yeah, but did they find the gun?
No, he didn't bring the gun with him.
No, but I'm saying, did they find the gun in the gun safe at home?
Well, they couldn't actually find the holster. What they actually do, here's the fun part. They lost the holster they found him with, so they went and bought another one.
They bought one.
They bought a very similar model from Amazon, and she was quite upset because in the case, and I look at the case file, she was quite upset because I was like, "Hang on, this is the holster that you found him with?" They're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Well, why doesn't it match the photos?" And they're like, we need a quick recess. And then they come back and they have to explain. It's not the exact holster.
Well, that's how is that submissible in evidence?
It doesn't matter. It's January 6th, man. This justice train, it's on express, no stops, coming through. And to a degree, I can kind of see the point. Oh, we're not trying to say it was this exact one, even though we lied about it being that one. It's about creating the image and the intent that this was a man who showed up with a holster to carry a firearm.
It doesn't matter. They should have had it. They should have had a piece of evidence there. If they've lost it, it's inadmissible.
You're a Trump apologist, ultra MAGA. No time for that. It's America. You're either red or blue. Justice is ain't nobody got time for that.
That's sad.
It's real. It's real.
If you were in a position of influence in the parliament, and you could do something about media laws, would you pass certain types of legislation? Is that the only way to bring things back to what they used to be, or are we so far gone that we can't turn this around?
I'll say this. It's not about how, I don't know. I don't know how to fix this because we watch what we want to see. We as a society has become so politically diverse that it's actually not the media's fault. The media is just feeding us what we want to see now.
Yeah, but the media started it in the first place. Oh, this, painting Australia red and saying that a 32-degree day is a mega heat wave. And then they've moved into purple now. You know what I mean? They are giving you the clickbait. So they know, oh, wait a minute, that's 10 more viewers. That's 100 more viewers. They've propelled the situation along. They get away with this much and keep taking. So they've created it.
And we did it to them when we stopped buying newspapers.
Yeah, well.
We started taking all of our news for free. And if we're not paying for it, someone else is paying for what we're reading.
That's true too.
You're reading over the shoulder of someone else. It's their newspaper. They get to choose what you read because you're not paying for their check. So chicken egg, what do you want to say? You got to start paying for news again, is the bottom line.
Yeah. Well.
And then you end up paying for just the news because there's the other chicken egg is, well, great. Then you're only paying for news that you'll agree with because who's going to pay? Are you going to pay for news that you disagree with? You're going to pay for The Guardian? Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
Crikey.
So, yeah, pay for crikey.
Hey, I only paid for a month just so I could get my story where they did a hit piece on me.
I've been putting clips out there, hoping that Cam Wilson picks up some of them and runs them, and I can get some more crap. Because that's the thing, we have our own community now. I'm not worried about being cancelled by the left and about them running pieces. I've been through that social murder. That's happened. I've been cleansed.
Yes.
I'm now only interested in people who share my similar views of the future. And guess what? They are too.
But that's dangerous as well because then you end up in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And you do need some people pushing back just to realign your views, just that slightly. It is very important.
Why?
Because you can go off track. I mean, if you're in an echo chamber,
you go extreme.
and you're not hearing other people's views. I think of it as a surveying analogy, and you have a bearing, and if you're slightly off that bearing in the beginning, by the end of a kilometer away, you'll be meters out. That's why you constantly need the debate between all sides to realign your views, almost to recalibrate your views, because there's certain things that you might not be thinking about or considering that might change your view just slightly to recalibrate it.
There's a $250 billion corporate media out there that will tell you exactly what they're thinking if you need that. It's already there. What else do I need? Sydney Morning Herald, New York Times, Guardian. There's an entire industry that will create this.
But that's all opinion stuff. I want to see. I mean, that's why I like watching your stuff, because I like to see what's really happening in a riot for for example. But I also like it when you go to maybe say, let's say a tame protest where there's not much violence or anything like that going on, but you're actually going up and interviewing people and asking them for their reactions and their thoughts on things. And I think that's incredibly insightful as well. Sometimes they don't have an educated thought. You often see them when we say, why are you here? And that's that deer in the headlights thing. It's like, oh, why am I here? But it's a good judge of where the public are and how they think.
Anyone in public who would be willing to speak to a camera operator that they have never met before is probably part of my political alignment. Anyone on that left and far left will always now. This isn't 2019 anymore, guys. This is post BLM. It is almost mandatory for anyone on the center left, corporate employed. Anytime they're going to speak to anyone on the camera, they need to know their political alignment, what the purpose is for. They won't freely speak on camera. Yep. Anyone freely speaking on camera believes in free speech and therefore is part of my broad vertical, and yours too. So, yes, I love speaking to those people too. That if they go at Palestinian protests, climate change protests, if they're willing to speak to me, yeah, great, let's do it. But they barely exist anymore.
That's a good point. But I get my news and I speak to people off the street, day to day, just regular people on their opinions and stuff like that. And left or right, they all kind of.
I need to just quickly cut you off. We've actually had a caller call through.
Oh, yeah.
So let's bring him on.
Here he goes.
Michael Angelkovic, welcome to the XCandidates. For some reason, we can't see you there. I don't know why. You there, Michael?
Give him an unmute.
Unmute yourself, Michael. And can you hear us?
No, turn his camera on as well if you can.
Nope. I can see him down the bottom there. We just can't see him.
He's coming in. He's coming in.
Maybe there's an internet connection.
He's coming.
There he is.
Can you hear us, Michael?
I can. How are you guys?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. A little bit of lagging, I think, in the web.
Yeah, there's a bit of an issue with the internet, but we'll push through it. Maybe just if you want to make a comment, and then we'll see how the internet goes from there. But at least get your comment through.
So,
what do you think is going
to go back, obviously, to the last Monday night where we had the incident. So, obviously.
Yeah, sorry, Michael. We're going to have to let you go. The internet is really, really bad. And you're breaking up and we can't hear you. Maybe if you jump off and jump back on again, it might fix it up. But yeah, the internet's just not good enough, unfortunately. Sorry, mate.
Do you want me to call him?
Yeah, maybe give him a call. We can. We've all got his number, so that might be a good way. But sorry, what were you saying, Adam? You were making a point.
I've forgotten now.
I cut you off. We've got some comments here. John's making some points. He's saying you can't keep legislating, which I understand that. But
Michael, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Chris.
You're on the air. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. How are you? I was just saying, the incident's been declared a terrorist event, and obviously that came from the police commissioner, who turned around and said that because it was religiously motivated, it's become a terrorist event. And my concern is that the focus has gone away from the alleged attacker who was there, and to look at if he was radicalised and by whom. And the focus is now on catching all the rioters that damaged the police cars, and that's where the attention seems to be. So I'm just wondering if you guys could comment on that. Thank you.
That's an interesting point. Well, I'm just going to start off with this because I think when people for a good cause riot, just like, you don't want to come across extreme. You don't want to come across like a madman or, a crackpot, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is the protesters themselves created another distraction.
Yep.
They probably should have. Why not stand in the street and light candles peacefully, and just say, "Hey, like we want something done about this." But by creating, by being emotional, and look, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but being emotional and letting those emotions take over has now distracted from the point of what really happened, taken away from the severity of trying to assassinate Bishop Mar Mari. Why? Because they'd be angry and they want to run around the streets and throw rocks at people?
Yes.
So why do it in the first place?
Because they're angry and they want to throw rocks at people.
Well, but then what happens is then, as Michael's clearly pointed out, the focus is now not on the assassin, it's on the extremists who are throwing rocks.
Yes. And you're going to find lots of people showed up there because they didn't care about that church. They've never been at that church before, and
they just wanted to throw rocks.
Yeah, they just wanted to throw rocks. And plenty of them may have wanted to create a distraction. I think that's completely plausible. Having been there tonight, where were they that they were so determined? All of those people, all of those boys who were so determined.
The church wasn't packed. The church wasn't packed.
Where were they?
The church was full of family, nice people, and I tell you what, it's like that. It's a bit of a different kind of church to what I've been to. Okay, and just everyone was friendly, everyone was polite, everyone was kind of like just dressed well. Not just in thongs and slippers and tracksuit pants. So they actually had respect for the religion and for the building. I like the shawl over the hair. It's respectful. It's like how you got to get into a church when I was in Malta. So where were all those other people?
Where were those boys so willing to put their bodies on the line for the church that they cared so much about, and they couldn't show up on Sunday? Hey,
was there any crossover with Belfield? Did you notice similar sorts of people? I mean, or notice any individuals there that
Michael's still on the phone? Sorry.
Oh, you want me to let him go?
No, you don't have to let him go. Just is he hearing this?
Are you hearing this? Did you want to have some? I'm hearing this. Yes, I'm hearing this. Did you want to have another word in that? What did you think about what Adamson just said?
Look, I think the other point is how many, and it comes back to Belfield, because I also was at Belfield, and one of the things I noticed at Belfield was that the congregation was inside the grounds. There were a lot of people that were outside of the grounds. So when all the flare-up happened, it was outside of the church, not inside of the church. A lot of the faithful were inside. So same thing happened here. I mean, the first arrest that happened was from someone who came all the way from Doonside. So how do you get someone from Doonside over to
Wakely.
So how many others were there that were from outside the area? How many of those were from, and this is very specific because how many were from the Assyrian Orthodox Church? And, it's pretty specific. So how many were even from the Assyrian community? I think there's got to be a lot of questions that need to be answered in the coming days, particularly once these rioters or the people that cause the damage get apprehended, found out and apprehended, and then we can move forward and say, okay, were they associated? Were they part of the community or were they not? Were they there to cause trouble? Were they from the outside or not?
Do you think it was a setup by the left?
Would have to be a very extravagant setup.
There's been speculations of that things happened in the past.
Look, it's just speculation. We really don't know.
No, it's speculation. Just point a topic. Like, do you think? What do you think?
Look, post January 6th.
Well, here's a question for
plausible.
you. If it was staged, what's the outcome that they want? What do they hope to gain from it?
laws, legislation, power, always government.
And
Every ABC story always ends up with government must do something, more funding, more state power.
Ban religion because of it's insightful for hatred.
Ban religion? You can't
Wait a
ban
second.
religion.
Ban religion because we're trying to get in misinformation, disinformation.
That would be worse than banning guns in America.
You're trying to get misinformation, disinformation. Don't forget too, they've watered down Christianity in Australia. So remember in the 60s and 70s, most people identified as Christian faith. And now in what was it, the last?
Here's a question. I mean,
that people have dropped down.
So the attacker said if the bishop hadn't opened his mouth about Islam, I wouldn't be here tonight. What did he actually say? What was it that supposedly he had done to bring on this attack?
I don't know. Look, I've got to be honest with you. I haven't followed Bishop Mar Mari. Like I don't know what is it justified trying to stab the guy?
Well, I mean, no, it's never justified.
Well, this is what I mean. So then, obviously, it's gone to an extreme way of trying to deal with something.
Do we know any extreme preachers around? Do any of that like that? Can we see any? Our people crave jihad. Jihad is the solution for our people. Does that seem as bad as suggesting that people shouldn't be forced to take vaccines that didn't stop the spread? I don't know.
Hey, look, I mean, the fact that Bishop Mar Emmanuel came out and said, "Look, I forgive my attacker," it shows the measure of the man, in my view. And you can try and smear him in any way that you want. I just know that he was standing up for people like myself during the lockdowns and the pandemic, and his message filled me with a lot of insight and a lot of hope. And I consider him to be a hero from the pandemic, and I consider him to be a hero now, just purely based on his reaction after he was attacked in a very physical and violent way, that he could have potentially lost his life if the situation had gone a little bit differently. And in the first thing, his first public statement, he's saying, "I forgive my attacker. I forgive the people that may have been behind him." And we don't know if anyone was behind him, but that's what the bishop had said. And he called for calm. I mean, he truly is a man of his faith, and he's truly practicing what he preaches.
Yep.
I mean, he's been telling people to behave like this and turn the other cheek and things like that all throughout his ministry, and now this is the opportunity for him to live up to those ideals, and he's done so. So I mean, the man should be up on a pedestal in my view. That comment, that's what should be on the mainstream news. That should be the top story.
Okay,
that should be filling people with hope, and especially people that are religious, and saying, here's the example.
Attacked Bishop Mar Mari Emmanuel forgives attacker.
Yeah.
Right? On first statement out of hospital. But no, you've got extremist hate mailer or hate speak or something like that. Anti-vaxxer bishop. You know, that these are the titles that you're getting. That actually really burned me. You know what I mean? When I saw that. I'm like, it kind of pissed me off a little bit when I saw that. Because I'm kind of like, what's this poor guy's just been? This poor guy's been attacked, okay, in a church, in his congregation, in his safe place. It's a safe place. That's a safe audience there, okay. And he's only preaching the faith. He's not speaking out of turn, you know. So he's only following the word of Gospels, like and then he prepared homilies and things that they've said. So that's all he's done. And he, you know, so like, I don't know, it just pissed me off, that shit titles, and I'm getting annoyed with the way the media is.
It's so annoying how biased it is, and it's just a narrative, and it's political. Just report the news, please.
That's it. And you go left wing, right wing. You can see it. Left wing, right wing, reasonably center. Hey, this one was reported not too badly. Like, you can just see it.
So I think about Laurie Oakes when I was growing up. I mean, you could tell that he was slanted towards Labor, but he remained, there was a certain level of impartial. I mean, he at least did argue the other case in an objective sort of way. And you could tell that, you know, he had a bias, but everyone does. I mean, there's always, I mean, I watched an interview with you. Was it Elijah Schaefer?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. He's
maybe talk about that, because you had to fly up to the Gold Coast.
Peter Harvey, Canberra. We can't talk about Elijah Schaffer's a long way from Peter Harvey in Canberra. Elijah Schaffer, he was there on January 6th. He was the one who got the photograph of Nancy Pelosi's computer still on and unlocked on January 6th. And he was close to being, but he was only saved because he was part of the US Capitol Press Gallery. Otherwise, he'd be in lockup because of that. He's been at the Blaze, and now he's doing his old show, Slightly Offensive, on the Gold Coast, which is good to do. Elijah and I have known each other for a little while.
So he's in Australia now, is he?
Wow.
Yeah.
He's but yeah, his views since he spoke at a Russian rally to re-elect Putin. He spoke at that outside the consulate.
But I think you said on there that everyone's got a bias. You can't escape that. Even if you are trying to be an objective reporter, it's just a natural bias. You can't be completely impartial to everything. And you were saying that when you first started doing these protests, you didn't really have a bias. You didn't have a political leaning, but now you definitely do.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because everything is political. For even those who don't take an interest in politics, politics takes interest in you. And I learned that very quickly, in that I would attend these protests and I'm like, oh, I'm not really pro or against your view. And that just inflamed the far left even more, because that is the worst. They failed to convert you. That's worse than your political, at least the political enemy, they can put you in a box and they're like, oh yeah, they hate us. With the non-aligned, they're like, no, you need to join us. Come on, this is it. Why aren't you joining? It's even worse. You know, that's not that you're now someone who can't go that way, who can't be theirs. Then that's the worst alternative of all. And why I had to get a political bias? Because I had to quickly learn it doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't matter what I hope. It doesn't matter what's in my head. It matters what people label me as. So, okay, all of a sudden, Christian, I'm Christian then. Because everyone will describe every belief, everything I do as Christian. I'm a Christian. You wouldn't describe yourself necessarily as far right or anything like that, or anti-vax. You're just like, oh, do I have to take this vaccine right now? Can I wait just a couple of weeks? No. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm anti-vax. I guess I'm far right then. Whatever.
Yeah.
You wouldn't describe yourself as a Nazi. Oh, but not taking a vaccine, or Nazi adjacent. You may not be a Nazi, Stephen, but your views enable Nazis to exist.
I'd love to ask people, what is a Nazi? We never get taught what Nazism is. How can you say, yes, I'm a Nazi? What exactly is a Nazi?
So my understanding of it was that they were nationalists.
It was national socialism.
But weren't they pro-Germany? Just at the start,
Hitler was very nationalistic.
Yeah,
and he used socialism not in the context of socialism as we know it. He used it in the context that this is my understanding of everyone's part of the German society. So you need to contribute, you need to work, and if you do that work, then you're rewarded by the state.
Yeah.
So national socialism.
Yeah. Right.
So general socialism, communism is a worldwide view. It's a global revolution. There's no real boundaries. Whereas National Socialism was, we are the German people. We are essentially the master race. And everyone within Germany needs to work towards the betterment of the Third Reich.
But they painted being nationalistic, right? So not to do with socialists, or like, if I like democracy, but I like Australia too. You know what I mean? And I want Australia to be the best it can be. But then so people will call me nationalistic, but I don't see because then what's the opposite? Globalist? I'm not a globalist, and I'm not, you know what I mean? But I'm not a communist. I'm not a Marxist. I'm not a socialist either. But I do believe in the nation, and I want the nation to come. I want our political leaders to have.
Look, at the end of the day, it's just cultural Marxism, and they have to put you in a box to be able to attack you. They don't care about your views. They don't care how you lean on this issue or that issue. They just want to give you a tag straight away, so people go, he's an anti-vaxxer, he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he's an anti-Semite, he's a conspiracy theorist, whatever it might be. It's to put you in a box and keep you there.
Is there anyone out there? Is there any viewers out there, right, who don't want our politicians just to at least put Australia and Australian people first? Is there anyone out there who doesn't want that?
Yes, like literally most of the city you live in. That's jingoistic, xenophobic language.
It's literally the
They've
city
been brainwashed
and
to
country
hate.
that you live in.
They're brainwashed
need
to
it to
hate the country,
succeed.
to feel guilty.
You need the country you live in to be successful and to have the people's back. Otherwise,
You got to understand they're completely ashamed with the country.
I'm not ashamed of
But there are people out there that are.
Why?
Because they've been.
Prove
Well,
it.
we
What's- what-
assume-
okay, I want-
the
I
easy
wanna know.
the easy answer is that they've been brainwashed in the universities. Is that the true answer? Well, from our side, it appears that is the answer.
Not
Why?
everyone's been to university.
Well, that is true, but they're getting it from somewhere.
Well, where are they getting it from? And what are you ashamed of? Seriously, what are
But
you ashamed of?
everyone who has been to university does. Everyone who has been to university lives north of the latte line and is closer in commute time to Shanghai, Dubai, and London than Campbelltown.
And then
They've
they've across the spit.
They don't go south of the spit. They don't go west of George Street. They go to the airport.
Well, maybe they
and they go
should.
to Los Angeles.
John says it's rules for radicals, so he's bang on. He must have watched our Topher Field interview, but yeah, definitely. Yeah. We've got some questions here. I don't know if you want to answer some of these, Chris, but this question is, what is Chris's view on the J6s?
Enormously loyal, defending an America which no longer exists. They didn't realize that the rule set of their nation changed and they've been left behind. It would be like standing in the middle of Trafalgar Square in 1971, calling for the British Empire to regain itself and its place in the world. It's too late. The colonies are already gone. The views and representations of putting Britain in its place in the world was circa 1900. Same thing with the January 6th standing there in 2024. They're defending America, which kind of died roughly 1991, 1995. Mickey Babbitt was proud for her daughter to go into the Capitol to defend her idea of democracy, which was last exercised roughly 1776, 1860. People don't die for their country anymore. Your country is more of a corporation.
This next question, look, you don't have to answer this because I think this is a very personal question, but let's put it to you anyway. Clark says, did Chris get the jabs?
Yeah, I love the jabs. I love them all. I got my 6 last week. It was good.
Yeah.
It stopped the spread. Didn't you hear? I love jabs.
I know. I was classed as an anti-vaxxer, so yeah, I was.
No, I encourage anyone who is in favor of vaccine mandates to get more jabs. I think it's great because that will help us stop the spread once and for all.
Because eventually they will all die.
Well, now we get to that whole
speculation.
Amish will take over the earth. Here's a fun one for you.
Look at autism rates.
Autism.
ADHD.
1 in 20.
No, but as in the Amish don't have it.
Don't have it.
Why is that?
Oh, now you're noticing things.
Oh shit! Sorry for swearing, guys.
We are so we're gonna get banned or shot or something from this
No,
episode.
because the thing is, like, because what happens is you got, like we've had Jody Lowe on, we've had like all these different people on, call to action, like speak out. Well, if we don't speak out, it's our platform. We set it up so that we can speak out. And I think, I think you and I, over the course of the last few years, have also been suppressed in what we can and can't say for different reasons. Okay. And then, like, really, we're beholden to none. Right. I got to be honest with you. I feel like the whole place is going to hell in a handbasket.
The more that we go, and look, I mean, to expand on this, not only are Adam and I feel pressure to not say certain things by society, by maybe the authorities, maybe media, but political parties as well.
Yep.
As the more that we have been involved politically, the less I really care, because I think the truth is more important.
Yeah.
And expressing yourself is more important. And as soon as someone wants to silence you, I think that is extremely dangerous. And I feel that that at the end of the day, you have to chase the truth and try and expose the truth.
Hey, you can't be against the misinformation, disinformation bill and then try to silence people.
And here's the thing: the success of cultural Marxism is getting the other side to self-censor,
To zip it.
If we go along with all this stuff, then you're basically falling on your sword. So if we say, oh, we can't say that, and we fall into that trap all the time because it is very dangerous to go up against it, but you got to be aware of consequences that certain things you say, or as soon as you said, zip the mouth and stop saying certain things, the other side have won the argument.
It doesn't matter if you say it or not say it, right? It's also based on affiliations. So what happens is you can toe the line, you can do the right thing and actually be quite truthful, or try, be on the right side of whatever you think you're going to be on. And then because you're affiliated or associated with someone else who do something that they don't like, then you're done. Right? Just in general. So I don't understand how you can fight, as I said, misinformation, disinformation bills, and you can be against digital ID and all these kind of censoring things and then not have your people speak.
Because you want to retain control of your political party?
Oh, I'm not talking about political parties. I'm just talking in general. Okay? We've all copped the brunt of it. People can think about what they think. I'm not naming names or shaming anyone. I'm just saying in general. If you're really for speaking your mind and saying your piece and being and not censoring people, then don't. And my philosophy is letting people fall on their own sword. You work with an idiot, and
yes,
right?
exactly.
No, but you work with an idiot, right?
Yeah.
And you're quite good at your job, and when that idiot happens to come on board, the atmosphere comes down, it all goes away, it goes south, and a good shift will be a bad shift, and all that kind of thing, right? Those people generally, if you persist, they'll either leave or they fall on their sword.
I often feel the best way to win an argument is to let the other person speak.
That's right.
Expose themselves.
That's it. Exactly. So, like you and I.
I mean, I guess that's effective. The effectiveness is what you're doing. You're just letting people hang themselves.
It's especially at social left, socially progressive protests. Oftentimes they're there because of the vigor. They're there. They love the energy of the
virtue. They want to feel virtuous by being there.
They want to feel important.
That comes later. What attracts them first and foremost is the vigor.
Mm.
They are energetic protesters. They're energetic. They're out there. I don't see too many right-wing protests which are like, yeah. So they're like, oh, wow, they must clearly believe whatever it is. Then they get there, and then the virtuous cycle begins because they have people being like, hey, Steve, good work out there. Like,
yeah.
Oh,
right-wing protesters, there's not many of us because they don't really give a shit.
We don't like to protest.
We don't want to protest. We're conservative. Really we don't want to do that.
Got a comment here from Clark as well. This is an interesting one. Chris, I've changed my view of you, mate. I've been watching you for the last couple of years. Didn't care for you until now, but good on you, mate.
You've been hate watching me for 2 years, have you? You've been sitting there like, I hate this guy, but I just can't stop watching. Look at this guy. I hate what he's Chris.
It's an annoying Chris, guy with a hat on.
You're going to ruin it. The next message is going to be, nah,
you lost me.
I was right. You lost me.
Yeah. See, and that's how I keep him. Because if he likes me, he won't.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a lot of hate watchers.
Yeah, that's good. It means you're over the target.
Alt Media Watch is my best promotion agent. I actually keep on, as I was saying, Cam Wilson, Alt Media Watch. I create many of these clips in order so they pick them up and they're like, look, Chris is saying something terrible. In the same thread, I then also have something that counters what I said earlier because I'm often with Elijah Schaffer. I was saying, white nationalists, you're going to be more comfortable around Christian Lebanese than you will amongst other whites. In that same outfit, but he'll try and counter me. But thank you, Chris. Thank you for I don't know what I said, but.
Yeah. Look, we normally finish up, and look, the time's flown. I've really enjoyed doing this. I mean, it's much better live. I feel. I mean, we can't do it all. I mean, you live on the other side of the earth, so and we don't have.
Well, apparently, left-wing extremists don't even head down my way.
They don't.
Well,
you voted against same-sex marriage. You really voted against same-sex marriage on your way. All of Western Sydney did, but you especially in your seat.
We used to be Christian-based, but I think it's changed a lot now.
Well, we normally finish with our final segment, Build Your Own Fantasy Government. Now, you've played this before, So we can't ask you that again. But what I might do, just to mix it up, if you could invite, let's say, remove Adam out of the situation, remove Stephen out of the situation, and you can do a podcast with 3 other people, living or dead. Who would you choose?
This is a good one. I think you've asked this before to somebody else.
I think I asked them who would they have for dinner, but
right.
Let's mix it up. Let's make it a little bit more modern day, and instead of a dinner, you're doing a podcast.
Richard Dawkins first, author of The God Delusion, who over the past year has been walking back all of his ridicule of religion and is quickly saying, "Oh, I'm a cultural Christian." This guy for years was running around doing tours about, this God delusion, we can't believe in God and Christianity and these ridiculous things, and now he's witnessing as it's less than 1/3 white British in London, and Islam is the most practiced religion in London, and he's like, I can't imagine the disappearance of Christmas.
Wow.
And you see this at Easter, and, it's just appalling. And oh my, eat it up. You brought this on. And here's the thing, I wasn't that.
Here's an interesting comment. Clark says, I'm a gay and I voted no on the gay marriage plebiscite. That's an interesting one.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Why did you decide to vote no?
Dana Pham voted against.
Yeah, Dana's very interesting. Yeah,
Dana campaigned against.
Yeah,
and she's transgender. I don't want to speak.
And still, I mean, Millie Fontana, she's not gay, but or lesbian, but she had lesbian parents, and she campaigned heavily against it as well.
But why? But why? It's like everyone's entitled to vote. Democracy, you vote yes or no for things. That's fine. Plebiscites, yes or no. Okay, but why? So what did you think was going to come from voting yes? And are we seeing the implications of the yes being put through now, i.e. with the trans activism and all that kind of stuff? And actually, we believe, or I believe, that that homosexuality has been tainted by the trans and rainbow movement. Because you know what I mean?
Well, there is an element of that. That gay and lesbians are like, yeah, we don't want any.
Well, this is, but I also believe that because there was, gay and lesbians were deemed respectable parts of society. It was just, that's, Kerry and Kim, they're married, and people would go, oh, well, they're gay. And then that would be the end of it. And then Kerry and Kim would be invited to the family barbecue or the street party or something like that, and nothing was said about it.
Yeah.
Now, because you've got activists in rainbow-colored pantyhose, okay, really, maybe, right?
Got a comment here from John. A plebiscite is not lawful. We have a referendum to change the law. That's not entirely true. We have referendums to change the constitution, not general law, not legislation. A plebiscite is just a gauge of how the public feels, and then the politicians can introduce legislation based on that response.
But they can also go against the plebiscite, can't they?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
But a referendum is to change the wording of the constitution.
But it's final. What the people vote.
Yes.
But with a plebiscite
is
it's a gauge.
It's a gauge of the public's feeling, and then, I mean, if you're going to put a plebiscite and you don't like the answer, I mean, you're basically, your political career is over if you go against it, because why would people vote you back in? You're not listening to the people.
Yeah, but the thing is that people are under the impression that a plebiscite's what they say goes, but it doesn't necessarily be that. It doesn't have to be that way.
My understanding is, yes, it's just a gauge of public.
So it can be changed.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it rule.
You've named one person. You have another 2 people to invite onto your podcast.
Did you say living or dead?
It could be anyone.
Oh, Andrew Jackson, you former US president.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What kind of question would you ask him?
How the hell? What led him to make the decisions that he did? The culture that created him. I mean, this is a guy that we go from the kind of leaders that you have in the US at the moment.
He was an old school Donald Trump. I mean, the stuff that he went through.
Uprooted 2 million Indians off their reservations and moved them west to a desolate state. Was elected on the dictate that he
not only. I mean, they once asked him at the end of his life, what was your greatest contribution? He said, I killed the bank, and he was referring to the central bank.
Yep.
He I mean, that's essentially the Federal Reserve now. He killed it.
Yep.
That was, and then he faced assassination attempts, all sorts of. Yes, Adam.
Killing the central bank's a good thing, right?
Come on, man. Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
So he did good.
Yes, he was an amazing president.
Okay. I am not.
I think that's a very good choice. He's
I'm
overlooked.
not versed in American politics, and I've got to be honest with you. I didn't know that there was a president, Alan Jackson.
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson. See, I don't know who the hell it is. Andrew Jackson.
Look him up. Look.
I
him
will.
Up.
I definitely will. I will.
We got a response from Clark. Because I could see where we are now. Don't dare question the trans stuff. If you do, you are fired and silenced.
That's why I'm my own boss. But that's awesome. He predicted
something on that.
He
I'm going
predicted.
to play something on that. Let me just bring that.
Yeah, sure.
That's good on you because you saw what was going on there, and you seen it. And even though you're gay, you still called against it. You called for the right thing, right move. Good on you, man. I appreciate that.
You got time for a 60-second funny?
Yeah,
let's do it.
In, I believe it's Christchurch, New Zealand, the Destiny Church was protesting against the rainbow crossing that has been put there, and they painted over the top of it, and they were upset about it. They were upset about and I've interspersed this with a show from 1972, I believe this is. Hopefully the audio goes to go.
Let's have a look.
Decided to immigrate, decided to leave this country.
That was the start, I thought. Okay, here we go.
I was talking to a man the other day who was leaving, decided to immigrate, decided to leave this country. And I said, why are you leaving?
We are excluded.
He said, it's homosexuality.
They have rainbow flags in the...
I said, what are you talking about?
Wokeism.
He said, 300 years ago, if you were homosexual, you were hanged, drawn, and quartered.
Where's our flags? Straight flags.
100 years ago, if you were homosexual, you were hanged.
When are we going to be allowed to be straight?
50 years ago, if you were homosexual, you were flogged and given 20 years in prison.
We are allowed to be straight. We have the right to be straight.
20 years ago, if you were homosexual, you were fined £200 and sent to prison for 2 years.
They are arresting our men. They are arresting our men.
5 years ago, if you were homosexual, with a small fine and you were pardoned. Got off with a warning.
You want to be arrested? I'm going to warn you once more.
Okay.
Once more.
I said, well, what are you leaving for?
Kia ora. Oh, so they can scream with
You've
me.
been warned.
He said, I'm going before they make it compulsory.
I mean, you got to make fun of things. I think humor is very, very important. I mean, some people might be offended by humor, but I mean, I always hark back to the days of Rodney Roode and Kevin Bloody Wilson, and they'd say at the start of their show, if you're easily offended, get out now because I'm going to give it to everyone.
Because it's a joke, right?
Yeah.
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 And you can with the new conversion laws, right?
But I mean, from what you've put there is a saying that all jokes are based on an element of truth.
We're 50 years on from that.
Now the straight people are getting arrested.
And now, can you convince someone that can you convert someone to be homosexual?
No.
Well, absolutely.
No. Also, you convert to you can't convert them away from homosexuality.
But it's conversion therapy. It's meant to be conversion to or from, right? Oh, it's only one way they've banned.
Yeah, it's anti-conversion therapy.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So if you are having gay thoughts, and even if you dislike those thoughts and you want to approach a priest, for example, and maybe just have a chat, you can't.
No, I was going to say something though, but does that mean all right? So say a parent or a friend can't help an individual, but if you were having gay thoughts or trans thoughts, right, or identifying as a dog thoughts, and wanted to go speak to your priest about it, are you allowed to actually take yourself to go and speak to the priest, or do you get put in prison for?
You can't.
That?
I think the priest would need to be very, very careful about what he said in that conversation.
You can't. That was Dr. Con Cafetaris's main point.
Yeah.
He had a whole
we also
document where he spoke to people that had been through that and basically they had thoughts of maybe I'm the opposite gender. It was very confronting for them, and if they had just waited, like some of them did, eventually they got over that and just realized that they were gay. So his argument was that transgenderism is actually an attack on gay people because you're mutilating them and taking away their chances of reproducing by either cutting off their genitals or cutting off their breasts.
You're just trying to fit a stereotype anyway. So by being a man who's attracted to men, cutting off your genitalia and turning into a woman still attracted to man, you're actually you're just trying to make it so you're not gay.
Well, it's essentially they're confused about their sexuality, and then the confusion about their gender comes into it as well. You're really talking about very, very young people that haven't established their own identities yet, and this is the point that Con Cafetaras was putting across. If you just waited and let it play out, I think it was something like 70 to 90%. I can't remember the exact figure, but he did quantify it. 70 or 90% of those people eventually just get over their transgender issues and just become homosexual.
That's right. Well, no, I get that.
Yep.
But what I'm saying is, but by doing it, you're trying to fit a stereotype anyway.
Well, everything's a social construct.
Well,
something I want to separate in this discussion, though, is we're linking genitalia and transgenderism when there's an ideology separated to it. Just as we're trying to create LGBTQ community from LGBTQ ideology, homosexuality. For example, the gentleman in the comments who's in a homosexual relationship, within a gay relationship, but is completely unplugged from the ideology and rejects it and hates it.
Well, I mean, Clark's just put a comment here.
Yeah.
Oh, and we're back. Sorry about that,
Sorry,
everyone. I hit the wrong button. So Clark says, I'm totally opposed to the disgusting LGBT community, in quotes. They don't speak for me or anyone how disgustingly totally pro-traditional family. I mean, this reminds me of speaking to Kerry White. She says the same thing. She's an Aboriginal elder, and she says that the pro-Aboriginal Yes campaign didn't speak for her. I mean, this is the thing that they do on the left. They collectivize everyone, and then they say, well, this is the message that community is putting forward. It's impossible, absolutely impossible to have
the
a
MO of the
collective.
left. It's the MO. So what they do.
Yeah, but successful. Very successful.
Is it really, though?
How have they not achieved their goals over the past 5, 10, 15, 20, 25?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like, yeah, you're right, that they've probably hit some milestones.
Police march in the Mardi Gras with 78ers badge, begging for forgiveness for their crackdown on the first Mardi Gras of 78. How much more winning do you want than that?
I just don't think they've won over the people. You can win over an agency.
Do you need to win?
I think you do.
40% of the incoming UCID class is LGBTQI identifying. How much more winning do you need? 40%, 38, 41. Or is it only 45% that they win?
I don't know. Don't you think I just don't think that people are. Well, don't forget, I'm from the West.
Oh, yeah, your numbers are different.
Right, so
UCID.
Yeah. My numbers are different.
Yeah, your numbers are very different.
Because like when I'm walking around, like even people who are like, oh, I'm a greenie, or I'm a animal protection group, whatever. People who are left, right, still will turn around and go, I still want to have like kind of control over my children if this and that and the other. You know what I mean?
John says elbow march in the gay parade, but still won't admit he's gay. Okay, Chris, you got two people on the podcast. You got Andrew Jackson. What was the first one, sir?
Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins.
Those two having a chat with each other.
Who's your last one?
Oswald Mosley.
I don't know who that is.
He was one of the he thought that this fascism thing taking across Europe was a good idea, and he'd jump onto it, and he tried to turn Britain fascist. Failed terribly.
Thank God.
Failed terribly. But he has some interesting views. He was trying to start a grassroots kind of nationalist movement in that when Britain was trying to disassemble its empire. And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go and do it that way." So he was anti-capitalist, nationalist, protectionist, worried about immigration. Would probably align on most views that most of One Nation voters would, and tried to pick that up. Kind of would probably, when told he was xenophobic, would probably also say, "Please explain." So yeah,
but we like democracy.
Yeah, he does too.
But then he was trying to. You said he was trying to go Marxist.
The path to power for most fascists was through democracy. It almost always is.
Yeah, well, we've seen that, aren't we now?
Okay, Chris, thank you very much for hosting us. Do you have any final message that you want to get across from your last week or two?
Pay for your news. If you're not paying for it, someone else is.
Okay.
You're gonna watch news someone else is paying for. What are their motivations? What are their thoughts?
I'm too cheap.
There you go.
He really is. He really is. But I don't watch the news, period. I don't care.
How are you going to be a politician if you don't watch the news?
Because what happens is when I do campaign and when I do run, guess what? I start watching the news and I do pay for subscriptions just to keep my finger on the pulse.
Well, look, I hope everyone has enjoyed this slightly different format that we've done tonight. I think always podcasts live are always a lot better than streaming.
Agreed.
So if we can do more of these, hopefully we can. It's not that easy, but when we can fit them in, we will. We've had a few technical difficulties, but that's understandable because we're trying some new things and flying by the seat of our pants. But as I said in the beginning, if you want to support us, head to Buy Me a Coffee or head to xcandidates.tshirts.net.au and get yourself an XCandidates or Commanding the Narrative t-shirt. We are uploading more designs all the time. And thank you very much, Chris, for hosting us. It's been a real pleasure, mate. And hopefully we can do more of these in the future.
That was good. I enjoyed it. Give these guys some support. If you like what they're doing, tell them. Even if you can't give them money, just give them a clear DM, being like, guys. Thank you.
And John says, share the interview. Please share it. I think there's some good stuff in here tonight, as always. So. As we say, every week, we rely on our audience. I mean, Adam and I are not the best with social media, so we really rely. Our best episodes is when our audience shares them out. So if you can do that, it would be much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
See you later.